Alright guys, this is the lian-li O11 Vision Compact. This is, in my mind, the best iteration of a dual chamber case. I think it looks the best, I think it has the best build quality and features. It's expensive, but I think overall worth it. And I'm going to show you everything that goes on inside this case, and you can see whether you want to use it for your next PC build. Now to get the top panel off, that's really easy. You just got these two thumb screws here, and they are actually thumb screws, they are captive. Loosen, pull back, lift, super easy. Now one of the unique features about this case is that you can take out that top mesh piece and instead put this glass piece, which is going to look a lot more cinematic if you like, but at the expense of being able to put fans or a liquid cooler in the top. Let's change this over because one, it's going to show you how to do it, and two, I think it looks a lot nicer. If instead you'd prefer to keep fans in the top, you can fit 3 fans across here in 120 style, or you can put a 360mm liquid cooler across the top here as well, which is a popular way of setting up a lian-li O11 style case. But if, like me, you'd prefer just to have the good looking glass on the top, all you have to do is take out these little silver screws which you find on this top shroud. Although there are only 4 screws on the actual top panel itself, you will have to take out this additional screw here which screws into the corner piece because they're kind of hooked together. That's one of the screws, and there's actually one underneath this sticker here, so we are going to have to take this glass panel off. When it comes to taking that panel off, you just unscrew the thumb screw at the rear of the case, make sure this tape on the corner is loosened, and simply tilt forward and lift out like this. Now if desired, you can actually take this front piece of glass out, but you're going to have to undo these 2 screws at the bottom here. There's actually no reason for you to do that because there's not really going to be any benefit to you taking out this piece of glass. So usually if I'm going to build in this case, I'm just going to leave that glass as it is and not faff. But if you're really worried about damaging it or scratching it, you can use those 2 screws at the bottom, undo those and take the glass off. But now this main piece of glass is off, we can take off this support bar here by undoing the screw there. Then unfortunately you have yet another screw over on the left side here. Once you have all of those out of the way, you can then pick up the top, pivot and pull off. Now that we've taken the top piece out, we can put the glass piece back in, but we don't actually need this support bar on the side. There's nowhere for it to secure at the top. This is only here in order to support fans or radiators in the top, which would be too heavy without it. But because we're only going to be putting a glass panel there, this bit can come out. And there should only be 1 screw remaining, so we just take out this one at the bottom here, and then the bar should just simply come out. There we go. Now if we wanted to place our glass panel on, it would be just as simple as placing it over the top and then sliding it forward like that. And then of course securing the thumb screws at the back here to keep it in place. But actually if you're going to build your PC, you might as well actually leave this panel out and just put it back on at the end. So let's take that back off. This corner piece here is actually vital to the integrity of the case. It's kind of a fixing point that stops things drooping down, sagging or becoming bent. So this is quite a good little bit of engineering in my opinion. Now that we've got all those panels off, why not have a look at the presentation area of the case? So we obviously have standoffs here for ATX sized motherboards. You could also fit micro ATX and ITX in here if you wanted to, although it's going to look a lot better with a full ATX motherboard. You've got motherboard back connect compatibility here, and that's going to be good for future proofing if indeed the industry does go that way. But you've still got plenty of room if you're using standard motherboard mounts because you've got these grommets on the side here. What you might notice is there's quite a large grommet here. And the reason for this is so that you can route your liquid cooler pipes through and into the gap behind this fan mount here. You can feed the head of your pump back in through here and then attach it to your motherboard, and that's going to hide a lot of the pipes in behind here. It's going to make it look really clean. If we turn our attention to the side here, we've got 3 120mm fan mounts in this little bracket piece here. It's really deep in behind here, which means you can fit a nice chunky radiator behind if you wanted, whilst having your nice looking fans on the side. In the basement of the case here, same again, 3 120mm fan mounts. If you're doing a full custom loop, you could put a radiator down here, but if you're using an AIO, don't put your radiator in the bottom of the case, it just doesn't make sense. You've also got nice wide cutouts for all your cables along the bottom as well, so that's a nice little feature. Now the rear part of a case never really gets any love, does it? But it's worth actually looking over it to see what's here. So you've got 2 120mm fan mounts here, whether you use one or both is up to you. You've also got plenty of PCIe slots here, This is where your motherboard I/O is going to be. Interestingly, there's also a little cutout, a little grommet on the back here. Now, I don't actually know what that would be for, presumably some kind of liquid cooling gear or something that connects to the motherboard internally, which needs to be external. And this is our power supply mount here. It sticks out slightly, gives you a bit more room on the inside. And then you've got some screws here, which are for your 3.5 or 2.5 inch drive bays, which are in the back. I'll show you those in a moment. Now we can see on the cable management chamber that on the external side we have plenty of mesh on both sides to allow loads of airflow through the case, which is pretty nice. In order to get that back panel off, we will have to take off this screw at the back here, which is a simple thumb screw, pull it back, slide it off like you do with all the other panels, and then simply tilt forward and pull away like that. Simple and easy action. Now there is rather a lot going on in the back here, so let me try and talk you through all of it. First thing you might notice is there's this central piece here, which you're going to be able to mount 2.5 inch drives in. It's got one of those really cool swing out designs, so you just pull it and swing it out like that. When you do so, the cable ties come off to reveal the case box, I suppose, but there you go, and then you can see inside the case. These are really ingenious because they have little magnets on the case at the bottom here which hold this open while you're building, and that's just a nice little quality of life feature that you get on a premium case like this. Now we can see we have two drive sleds at the bottom here. We showed you the screws for those earlier. That essentially you take off the thumb screw and then you lift the drive cage up and it pops out like that, which is pretty nice. Then in order to mount your drives, you're going to be sliding them in there and then securing them from the bottom here. And then to place it back in, pull it in, hook it over, and then put the thumb screw back in. Really easy to use. What you might find helpful when doing your own build is actually just to take these drive sleds out and put them back in at the end. The reason is that it's going to give you more room to route your cables underneath here in order to put your motherboard header plugs on. You can see that there's a bit of thoughtful cable management spaces with these nice Velcro straps. This is going to make routing your cables a lot easier. One of the criticisms I've had of O11 style cases is that the cable routing is actually quite difficult because you have a deep chamber but quite a narrow chamber. I think these are going to help us with our cable routing. If you don't like these routing pieces, you can actually just pull them up and pop them out like that, and that's going to give you a bit more room if you like. All the internal cables themselves are white, which is quite a nice touch. Considering it's a white case, you're usually going to be doing a white theme with it. That's going to be a welcome addition. Now in this bottom segment, you've got another little nice Velcro strap here. That's going to be ideal for mounting your small motherboard header plugs through here, things like HD audio, fan plugs, etc. It's going to be nice to feed those through. Power supply is going to sit on this nice little shelf here with a little rubber vibration pad on it for a bit of quality of life. Got a slightly, well, whatever the opposite of recessed is, power supply mount here that sticks out the back of the case. That's going to give you a bit more room internally as well. Now you can put those really big 1600 watt power supplies in here, but that's actually going to take away quite a lot of room from the rest of your case, so that's up to you. One of my tips for building in this kind of case is to actually put the power supply in as the last thing you do. You want to use a modular power supply, hook everything up, and then at the end plug those modular cables into your power supply and then mount it here. It's going to make routing all the other cables a lot easier. And just as another close-up, you can see, again, loads more cable routing room across the top here, which is going to be very welcome. One of the problems, of course, with grommets is that they do come off quite easily like this. That's going to happen with any kind of rubber grommet, though, and just so you should just be aware of that when you're building your PC. Now you can see that in terms of a storage array, you've got quite a few drives that you could put in. You've got your two 2.5 inch drives here. We've also got these two drive caddies, and this can support either a 3.5 inch drive or a 2.5 inch drive. So that's going to give you quite a lot of compatibility. And for most modern systems, you're not going to need any more than that, are you? One final feature that I haven't shown you yet, actually, is really ingenious. It's this little anti-sag support piece here. So it's got a little thumb screw. You can loosen that in order to change the height up and down. And once you've found the spot that you like, you can tighten it there. I'd suggest putting this all the way to the bottom to start with. When your GPU is in, you can then adjust it and tighten it once the GPU is in place. Again, if you don't like this and you want to use your own, you can just take it out using that little screw there, and the whole thing's just going to pull out. And here is the reverse angle of that anti-sag piece, just to show you what it looks like. It goes up and down. It's got a nice soft bit of plastic on the end here, so it doesn't damage your graphics card. Very well thought out. I like this. Now, in order to actually put your fans on the bottom here, you're going to have to undo a screw here and a screw here and lift that out. And you simply secure your fans to this and then put it back in again when you're done. Now there are a couple of methods you could try to get your liquid cooler or fans mounted on the side here. You could just route it all through and do it as it is in place, or alternatively, you can actually take this whole piece out, mount it, and then put the piece back in. It's up to you how you want to do it. I'd probably just put it in as it is, but some people would prefer to take the whole piece out. You just got to unscrew this thumb screw here, Once you loosen that thumb screw, it should just pull backwards and then rock out like that, and then you can attach everything that you need to. If, like me, you're planning to put your radiator on this side and feed the liquid cooler pipes in through that top grommet like we saw earlier, you're going to have to probably take this middle piece out. And actually, in terms of making your build easy, you might as well do that anyway. Just pivot out and then lift up, and that bit just comes off really easily. Now let's check out the front panel. Let's look at the I/O to start with. I really like this. It's really sleek in the bottom corner here. You've got a plug here, both USB 3. You've got a USB-C port, and you've got a combined headphone and mic jack here. I think this is the cleanest way to do it on this style of case. I'm very sick of seeing it higher up on the side. This looks a lot cleaner. Speaking of the front panel looking nice, this is really nice and sleek. Just a nice smooth surface here. The button is built into the side. That's the power button. Looks really nice. These screws come in a nice little plastic box here. I like when they do this. It makes it easy to assemble and sort. So you just pop that open, and it's got all the different bits that you need. You've even got little dividey pieces here to, if you want to use this for other projects or just to arrange the different screws in different areas, you've got nice little dividers there. All right, so now that you've seen most of the case, why don't I show you all the cables and all the screws that come with it, so you know what you're going to get when you actually buy it. So for starters, we have this USB 3 plug. That's obviously going to control the USB 3 on the front panel. A front panel plug, a uni plug, so you don't have to do all those little ones, which is quite nice. You have your standard HD audio front panel connector here, and you have a USB-C front panel connector here as well. This is nice because this is really nice and flexible. It's not got a big bulky piece on the end, so it's going to be really easy to put in place without looking ugly. You've got a few extra cable ties if you need them in the back as well. Not very generous with those. I would like to see a few more. And we've got a big bag of internal case screws. Those actually break out into another separate bag here as well. Essentially, you've got a little standoff adapter here. That's quite nice. Not a lot of cases come with these. This is what you put on the end of your screwdriver in order to take standoffs out or rearrange them if you need to. You've got these screws, which are typically for putting hard drives in place. You've also got lots of fan screws like this, hatted screws, which are typically used for fixing motherboards in place, and a hex screw for your power supply. You've got these tiny little screws here, which presumably are spares for the various small screws to fit panels in place, but tell me in the comments if you know differently. You've got these little white bungs here. These go onto your SSDs or 2.5-inch drives, and then you can secure it in place with one of the screws there. You've actually got these white little clips as well, and the point of doing this recording, I actually don't know what they're for, but when I find out, I'll put a little text comment on the bottom of the screen to tell you. In terms of the case tour, that's actually done. We're going to get on with the review in a moment and show you some of the builds that are possible in this case to make it look absolutely baller. I'm not going to show you the full build process though. That's actually going to be in a separate video, so you want to subscribe to see that one, and when it's released I'll try and put it down in the description if I remember. But for now, on to the review. So the thing that I love about this case, and its main selling point, is that it's actually a true panoramic PC case, isn't it? You can see all the different angles of your components inside. I suppose you don't have glass on the back, do you? But who wants to see in the back for cable management anyway? It's got that innovative feature with the grommet at the top, which allows you to hide your liquid cooler pipes. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it works. The execution though, I think could have been better on that side of things. I'll get into that when I get into the cons. It's really easy to build in this case, apart from that liquid cooler part. Everything goes in really easily. All the materials are really high quality, and I think the fit and finish is excellent. The white colour is pure Arctic white. It looks absolutely brilliant. Can't really fault it at all. You can really reconfigure this into any permutation that you want. You know, if you want to have the glass on top, you can, or you can swap it out for that other plate that's going to let you put your liquid cooler or fans on the top. It's very flexible, it's very well built, and I really don't think you're going to be disappointed if you pick it up. The cable routing is also really easy in this case, and I often find with these dual chamber cases that cable management is actually quite easy, but you can never make it look good because you just stuff it into a big hole in the middle. But now that this one's got those routing channels, actually the whole process is made easier, and the fact that that power supply sticks out the back a little bit in the compact version means that you do have a bit more space for cable management, particularly if you're going to use one of those really big, 1000 watt plus power supplies. They're a bit longer. That's going to be a really welcome feature. But as we all know, where there's pros, there are cons as well, and the cons in this one, a few, but they are there. So whilst I really like this liquid cooler routing that you can put it through the top and out into the back to hide the cables, I think the grommet is really ugly, and they could have made it look so much nicer, in my opinion. If there was some kind of technology where you could have a little mesh there instead, so the pipes don't really separate all those big bits, or if the individual pieces of the grommet were a bit smaller, maybe it would have looked a bit better. I also found that mounting it all in here was a little bit of a pain, actually. It was not the easiest thing to do. Though I would caveat that by saying that this liquid cooler I'm using has a decoupled pump, which means that the pump is actually sort of in line further behind near the radiator rather than actually in the block that you see on the PC. I think if your pump was integrated into the block, maybe it would have been a bit easier to route. The cable routing options are really good. All the cables from your front panel and everything, there were plenty of room to be able to route them through to wherever you needed them to be. You could tuck things away quite nicely. However, it's good that this case is motherboard back connect compatible so that you can plug it in through the back and everything. Downside of that though is the case can look a bit gappy. If you're using a front regular old motherboard like most people are going to be doing, then you can see all these panel gaps in the back where that back connect would be working, and for some people that's not going to look the best. It's kind of a really small thing, if I'm honest, but for some people that might bug them, and I have to put it in the cons. When I give you these pros and cons, guys, it's not like I'm telling you whether the case is good or not. I'm just telling you the information and the experience that I've had, and then you just make up your own decision. So should you buy the case? I don't know. You saw the video, you saw what it looks like, you see what goes on, you see my pros and cons. You should probably just tell me what you think, and then buy it or not. All right, see ya.